Morning, everyone. This is the regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen of the town of New Canaan for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We'll get started at 8:33 a.m. We have a quorum and we have a number of items on our agenda. We may want to reorder some things based upon some people that are waiting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on September 19th, 2023?
So moved.
Any comments or corrections? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comments. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments to the selectmen on agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Comments may be submitted electronically since this is a hybrid meeting by sending them to BOS distribution at newcanaanct.gov, and we'll read them before the end of the meeting. Any? Barbara?
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Barbara Wills. I live on Bennington Place. And
Hold on, Barbara. I don't know if it's turned on though. There's no blue light like this one.
No, don't touch the other one.
hello. Better? Oh, I can hear it now. So I went to the Utilities Commission meeting and you were present and guiding a great deal of the conversation. And I spent an hour in those horrendous chairs in that old boardroom. And I listened to the Utilities Commission pass a resolution that they were going to recommend to you all 2 vendors for the drive study. And I don't remember anything saying which vendor they had chosen. They had 2 vendors, PeerCon and VCOM, that were going to be engaged to find out about the 17 points and whether or not they're capable of doing them so that they can be contrasted with one another, and then the correct choice would be made. And the language on this agenda says, review and approve a consulting agreement for a drive test of New Canaan to provide an updated baseline independent report on, it says vendor singular to be named in session. That's not what I heard. That's not what the Utilities Commission passed as a resolution. And I don't think it's appropriate to only consider one vendor. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else? If not, Albie, good morning.
Okay. The fire department would like to request 2 different approvals for renovations to our training / meeting rooms, actually exercise room also. RD Weiss for a total of $13,436 for removal of current carpet and putting in a solid floor. You want me to do them together or separate? I don't know.
Go ahead.
And the second one would be for a wall unit through California Closets for a project cost of $16,500. That includes 10% contingency on both of them for storage and really just storage and some extra bunks for storms and so on.
Tiger, is someone here for Public Works on this? Are you working on this?
Not directly.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm handling through Bill. He recommended the flooring vendor who did our alarm room floor and the California Closets. Bill has just guidance on some of the other options on the training room, but he's aware.
Questions?
Just a quick question. In the meeting room, was that part of the whole renovation that we did a few years back? Is that new carpet that was done in the renovation? We're replacing it with hard flooring, I guess.
That
Last renovation back in 2012.
yeah. So
Has
it's
it been that
yeah,
long?
that carpet's it's
What's
10 years
happened
old.
with all
It's-
that time? Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
and the opportunity for the carpet with the California Closets with their significant discount allowed for the doing a new floor which is moppable, and doing it prior to the closets going in, the
Thanks.
wall unit.
Any questions?
None here.
I have no questions. I move we approve this request from the fire department chief for R.D. Weiss as described for removal and installation of flooring in the meeting room at the fire department and California closets for the storage of training materials and bunks for multi-operational events in the meeting and training room at the fire department.
Second.
For the amounts
Oh,
specified
sorry.
by the chief. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief. All right. All right, another chief. Good morning, John.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
Great. How are you?
Good.
So I'm here for a contract agreement with our license plate reader vendor. It's not, it's for 140,000, but that's for locking into a 5-year term. It's 28,000 a year, which we initially agreed with. That's what we had budgeted for in our 5-year plan. So it's not a lump sum of 140,000. They're billing us annually, so it's 28,000 a year, and that's going to save us roughly 5,500 per year rather than not locking into a 5-year term.
Any questions?
How many readers do we have?
10.
Yeah, so this brings me back. When I saw this on the agenda, I was like, wow, because this was one of the first purchases, I think 12 years ago.
Those were different. Those were vehicle mounted ones.
Right. No, I know the
These are
technology
stationary.
is
The
completely,
technology is much better. They've
Yeah.
proven useful for us. We've
Right.
solved a number of situations with them, hit and run with a pedestrian downtown, some stolen vehicles. We've assisted other.
and also parking department too. It's been.
They use a
highly-
totally different
Right,
system
right.
that a database that we don't
Yeah.
share with them, or they don't share with
But,
us. You know,
but the
just
point is the technology, we've
technology.
come a long way in 12 years.
Questions?
Just, so the flock safety, we've used them. We're just continuing on their contract. Is that right?
Correct.
Or the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did we have a 5-year contract with them before?
We did not. We just purchased them last year. We entered into actually a lease agreement with them last year. So they're new to us. So they've recently been deployed. So this is a continuation of their service. So we're going to try to save some money going 5 years with them.
Okay. Thank you.
I have no questions. I move we approve this request from the police department to enter into a 5-year contract with Black Safety for $140,000 for license plate reader hardware and software services as described by the chief. Second,
Second here.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, I know we've got a lot on the agenda today and I was going to say this earlier, but we kind of jumped into things, but I will be putting forth an agenda and a new agenda item with respect to the possible disposition of Vine Cottage.
Okay.
So we can vote on that now or vote on it later.
In executive session.
No. There's no need.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You opposed or abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Okay, Tiger, good morning.
Good morning. This first item is for the annual sale of composted leaf mulch. We went out to bid publicly. I also offered it to 7 separate contractors. We got 2 prices back. Peter Lonnie Incorporated was the high bid in this case, which we want. We want the highest bidder at $13 a yard. We expect to sell approximately 2,000 yards for a total sale price of $26,000.
Tiger, can you remind us, what was the level last year price? $10?
9.
9. Okay.
It had been 9 since 2017.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions?
None here.
Who is Burns?
Burns Construction is well, they're starting to expand now. They did the gas expansion. They're doing the 36-inch water main for Aquarian. They're working with
I know
Aquarian.
Burns. Okay,
That Burns.
enough.
They're starting a site development section of their facility, so they were looking to get into it as well.
Okay. Quite a wide margin there. If no further questions, I move we approve this request from Public Works for the sale of the compost leaf mulch to Lonnie Construction for $26,000 as described by Tiger. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Or
Morning, Bill.
Alright.
over here this morning, to get approval to contract with Northeast Generator for to install the transfer switch and associated components to 39 Locust Avenue for the temporary police department, so that they'll have a generator. If you recall, but maybe 5, 6 months ago, maybe more now, we had approval to purchase all the equipment to get it in the queue. The equipment is scheduled to ship on October 15. And then once it comes in, we'd like to get Northeast Generator and his team on it to start installing it. They also, Northeast Generator also assisted in engineering it, the whole program to make it work. And they are a current contracted vendor who does all our maintenance on all our generators also.
Any questions?
So, sorry. So the temporary generator project, I mean, we don't get any of this back, right? I mean, it's
Well,
just,
So the thought is when we get towards the end of the police department getting ready to move out,
yeah,
we can either A, negotiate with the owner of the building and see if we can strike a deal somewhat with them if they want to pay us for that equipment and leave it in place, because then they'll have a temporary setup. If not, we'll remove the equipment and we'll sell it, put it on the market, sell it, especially now electrical equipment and stuff like that has a value, so we can try to do that too.
But this is just a what's,
It's a transfer switch.
It's a transfer switch.
Transfer switch.
It's involved.
it's not the generator.
It's not the generator, because we're gonna use that generator that we purchased a while ago. That's gonna be parked over there. It's gonna be plugged into a docking station permanently, so that it'll act as a.
at the new police.
At the new police
right.
department, yeah, right.
So does this switch, is that transferable too?
We can, well, it's all hard mounted to the side of the building.
Uh-huh.
And there's also a docking station. It could all be removed at the end of the project, and we can always sell it. Or
But you have to buy a new switch when the temporary generator moves back
no,
over to.
that's our, the police department already has everything. They'll have all the new switch gear already in there. And they may be, I don't know the program, they may be reusing what's there, or they're buying new gear, but it'll be all set up with a permanent generator over there. So this is strictly just a temporary basis with temporary equipment.
So this amount, in addition to the temporary generator that we approved several months ago, is all part of the police
Yes.
budget for the new
It's all
building.
part of the project, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's required that they have emergency standby power in the police department.
Yeah. of course, yeah. I just didn't realize the switch costs this much.
Yeah.
I mean, how much is a generator?
But this is the third of
Generator, well, we bought the generator, it was a couple hundred thousand.
ARPA funds.
$225,000, yeah, with the ARPA.
Yeah, but
funds.
still, I just wondered the price, yeah.
no,
Okay, okay.
Yeah, none of the stuff is inexpensive, unfortunately, and
Yeah, okay.
not getting any better either, so.
What are we going to use the generator for in the future after PD is done?
Well, that's the mobile generator,
Okay.
and we can use it in any building.
With a switch.
But
How many
he's
switches have
We
we
don't
done?
need to switch, no, so we had set up a lot of our buildings already with docking stations.
Docking stations.
Yeah.
Tell me,
that will
what's the
accept-
difference between a
that
docking
generator.
station and a switch?
Right, and in a pinch, if it was really a dire station, there was no docking station there, it takes a little time, but we can always hardwire a generator if we had another storm Sandy, let's say. So we can always make it work. The generator, the mobile generator will also run the wastewater treatment plant, which is our highest liability if something were to go wrong with the generator down there. Things are getting older.
How old is the generator at the transfer station?
They installed, that was when you build that, 1999,
Yeah.
1999. Yeah,
What's the
It's serviced
expected,
annually.
what's the expected life?
it's inside, so it's not exposed to the elements. It's starting to, we've been spending a little bit of money on it. We had to do another radiator on it, which was like $20,000.
Is a replacement in the out year budget? Just
Not in the 5-year.
Not-
I don't anticipate it in the 5-year. We would be looking at it at the 10-year mark.
Yeah.
At about 30 years out. But to Bill's point, it's housed inside. It's on an annual maintenance contract. It's run every week.
Yeah.
So it's exercised every week. We did have to replace a radiator recently for it, but overall, it's in very good shape.
I mean, it's a pretty important,
Right, but that's the reason why we have the temporary one is so that,
Generator.
God forbid we had a problem, we have a backup to it.
right.
And we did test the library with the temporary one and it was no problem. Ran the whole library on a trial basis.
The library's brand new. They need a gen.
Well, you never know when power goes out, right?
And they have a switch.
They have everything, yes.
Okay.
Yep, they have just exact similar to what we're gonna do over here. You just plug in it and it goes to the docking station.
Plug and play.
Yeah,
So is that a docking station or a switch?
it's both. It's a switch to a docking station connects to the switch.
And it powers only the building, not the
Excuse me?
powers only the building? Not the cell antennas on top of the building?
Right, that's separate because that's a separate meter and that's owned by whoever, sorry.
Verizon and T-Mobile.
That's all in them.
So we can't run a police department without a generator.
It's a law.
It's a law. Any further questions?
Mm-mm.
None here.
I move we approve this request from Public Works to enter into a contract with Northeast Generator for a total of $142,604 for the installation of an automatic transfer switch as described by Bill at 39 Locust for the police temporary
Mhm.
location. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Morning, Andrew.
So I'm joined by Deputy Chief Andrew Walsh. So this is a joint purchase, the New Canaan PD and the DPW as part of our traffic calming and pedestrian safety improvements are looking to purchase two separate sets of speed sentries with solar power. So we don't have to worry about having changing out batteries and things of that nature of a more of a permanent nature. If we wanted to have a permanent installation, we have, how many do we have so far? How many speed sentry? What? Yeah.
One solar powered on Old Stanford. And we have one solar powered on Valley Road that was purchased through state funds though.
And how many do we have overall?
We have 4 battery powered.
Right. So basically you move them around based upon problems that we see. Andrew moves them around to see where we are. And these will allow us to either set them up permanently or set them up for a longer period of time. So they had some money in their budget. We had some money in our budget, purchase them together and then be able to utilize them. And we've seen a definite benefit to having them out on the street. Let's put it that way, either to gather data in certain sections where we're having residential complaints or as a permanent installation for future. Say on Valley Road, we have one by Silver Hill. That one was a state grant, so that one came in free. But then in other locations on Talmadge Hill, same thing. If we have a situation where we think we have a permanent speed problem, we put these up and then we don't have to necessarily change out batteries.
So by collecting data, you're not talking, you're just talking about usage in terms of how many cars are going at what speed, not identifying particular cars.
No, you'll just get the volume of traffic.
Right.
At the time of day of that volume and the speed.
I mean, we have talked in the past, guys, about, cameras, like we have in the city and
Mhm.
at certain intersections.
That law
Locus-
just changed. So as far as speed cameras and then being able to find
Right.
or traffic cameras at a traffic light, signal, and that someone blows the signal, exact same thing, blows light, same exact thing. The state just changed that. So that's a new law that the police commission will take up
Right.
as to whether or not they want to pursue that and where.
Talk to me about the change in the law, Tiger. Exactly.
Forever, we weren't allowed to put them up and fine. Now we can put them up and fine. So it's a question of, so in New York State, if you went through a light, you would wind up getting a ticket in the mail. Same exact.
And so
thing.
you're saying this is going to come before the police commission in the
We'll
near
have to take
future?
that up.
You need a town.
Yeah.
And where does PD stand on that?
Well, you need a town ordinance first. So once we get direction from.
And I get that, but where does PD stand on?
Well, we would present any problems we have in certain intersections to the police commission and allow them to vote for it. We would
Right.
have to do research first.
Okay, good.
Right. Sure.
So back to these signs, I think these are great, especially there's a new one. I forget where you're driving and it says, great job. If you
That's right. Confirm speed. Yeah.
Current Speed, right?
Yeah, you can put a message back. Right.
Speed. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
no,
put a
I
message
it's
back to the
great. It was
person, right.
really
It's positive
uplifting.
feedback as well as.
Yeah, slow
was
down
negative
or whatever.
feedback.
Yeah, no. So
You're
that's not
going way too
included.
fast.
These little positive things are not included in the two that you.
educating people that they're doing.
Is that
the right
included
thing.
in the two that we're
Yeah, they're all
purchasing now?
programmable the same way.
Oh, same way. Okay, great. So there's one on North Wilton and Briscoe that just went up and it's out already. And I noticed that it had a solar panel, but the solar panel's gone. So I don't know. And so
No,
just,
it's a battery.
is the battery part of, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is it not
Those we
working?
leave
or-
it out for about 7 days. And then at that point in time, we got to pull them in, recharge the battery.
So you guys do the programming and say superb speed, or you're going way too fast.
Oh, they're great. That's fabulous. Okay, thank you for that.
Are these convertible into cameras?
No. Camera.
For the purpose used? I just came back from Washington DC where, believe me, they work.
Oh. Say no more.
Exactly.
You were in a rental, right?
No,
That was a stolen car, actually.
no, it's just the people, the locals, warn you, don't, because they, wow. But they don't have reciprocity with Connecticut, I think.
Oh, they
so,
don't.
yeah.
Okay. Too bad.
Anyway. I move we approve this request from Public Works and the Police Department to enter into a contract with East Coast Signs for $26,783.54 as described by Deputy Chief Andrew Walsh. And Tiger, second.
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Margaret's here for the YMCA lease with Kiwanis Park and John Howe. Good morning.
Margaret
Hi,
Riley, the
yes.
Executive Director of the
Hi,
YMCA.
Margaret.
So we're looking to renew the lease for the Y used in Kiwanis Park for their camp. I believe we've done 64 years so far with the Y being there. So, yep. So we're looking to have a 3-year lease with them. Compared to the old lease, there's just a few minor changes. The old one had it at 140 campers. That was during COVID. It should have been 170, so we increased that back up. We opened up the dates a little bit wider due to the school calendar. So depending on snow days, et cetera, they still can have their 8 weeks of camp in that time, but it's more like a 10-week period. So we can be flexible back and forth that way. And then just on the copy that you had on the tablets, want to make sure that there's a red line on the map. It didn't transfer through on all of them. So, okay, good. So if your red line's there, that hasn't changed. We want to keep it the same. So we look to have a lease approved where the Y will pay the town $15,000 per year for the camp season use of Kiwanis.
Questions?
And that amount hasn't changed, has it, for a
That
while?
was, the last lease was a 2-year lease, and that was the second year was the 15,000.
15,
Yeah.
okay.
Before
And and has the price to the campers changed at all over that same period of time?
It has.
It has.
Minimally, we try, we're as a nonprofit, we try to keep the price as reasonable and low as we can, and really just to meet our expenses. So we increase as we've had to meet minimum wage. We employ a lot
Sure.
of high schoolers and a lot of minimum wage people at the camp. So we do have to keep up with that. So to meet those expenses, we have
Okay, thank you.
And you provide scholarships for,
for $50,000 in financial assistance.
Wow.
Y provides every year to summer camp, and we not only employ a lot of teenagers.
It should say 50.
50.
Wow.
Yes. We employ a lot of the town residents. We have a nurse on site at all times. It's a licensed day camp. So we have inspections that we have to meet. And we have a large number of campers who are individuals with special needs, and we have special aids that we afford those people without any additional expense. So we don't charge extra even for one-on-one assistance.
I have no problem with the lease, and I think it's great that we're re-upping and get more usage. John, you and I have sat here over the years talking about the underutilization of Kiwanis. Can you tell me, since our last conversation, which might have been 3 or 4 years ago, where are we with the use of Kiwanis Park?
It's gone up a little bit.
It's gone up a little bit. Define a little bit.
Maybe
Two
500.
more people?
Yeah, 500 more visits during the main part of the season. What it has a lot of is the number of people that walk through it. With the trail that goes up along the road and the trails inside, there's quite a lot of foot traffic, neighborhood. similar to Dixon Park. It's kind of a neighborhood park that way.
Right.
But-
And that's because the trail is new, or would accounts for the
Trails
increased foot?
Yeah, the
foot
trails
traffic.
aren't new. I think part of it is a holdover from COVID. You know, we still
Right.
have a lot more people walking Waveney
Right.
too in Irwin Park. And
Right.
I think the same things
Good.
happen in Kiwanis.
Well, that's in my mind, that's usage.
is
You may not be, you may be walking through and not hanging out, but that's usage.
Yes.
So that's important. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just us following through on that, just looking at the map, during the camping hours, are people still permitted to walk on these paths that appear to go through the campsites or?
The Y has been great in as far as letting the neighborhood kids more than anything be able to get through the park from the southern section during their times. In general, though, their camp area is closed to the public
Okay,
while camp's going on.
okay.
That's a requirement of licensing.
Okay,
state
that's
licensing.
what I wondered. So, okay, so there's some sort of encouragement not to walk through.
Yes, we haven't had any problems with that over the last couple of years. There's been, the Y's been great with staff where if they see somebody, they make sure that they escort them through per se. So.
Got it. Thank you.
So I would mention that Margaret asked for 5 years and we're agreeing to 3 years. After 64 years, you'd think we have more confidence in doing a longer term lease, but we'll go with.
For about 60 years, we probably didn't have a lease.
That's right.
That's true.
I don't really know.
That's
Right.
true.
That's probably
Anyway,
true.
we're glad to accommodate the Y. It's a very active program in the summertime, and thank you for all you do for the town.
Oh, it's our pleasure to do it. It's a wonderful camp and we look forward to many, many.
Super.
I move we approve this request to approve a renewed or facility lease agreement between the town and the YMCA as described by John for Kiwanis Park. Second,
Here.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're up. Sorry to make you wait. Morning, Bob and Lisa.
Okay, good morning. I'm Bob Buttman, Board Chair of the Library, along with Lisa Oldham, Executive Director of the Library. We're here to talk obviously about the extension, if you will, of a construction lease from the main building that we've just basically completed at the library to the legacy building that is currently under construction and being moved to a new location. It hasn't quite been finished yet. So just by way of background, as you all remember, the original arrangement between the library and the town was governed by an MOU. And subsequently the construction loan that lent the library $10 million, which explicitly removed any funding for the legacy building as part of that loan agreement. So what's happened is we have proceeded with moving the legacy building per conditions and terms given to us by P&Z when we came to all an agreement in terms of how the building was going to be built. We came to an agreement that essentially the building had to be located in a certain location, and we have funded all that work, if you will, out of our capital. So we're now at a point where our capital has been exhausted and we are reaching into our endowment, which is the last bits of money the library has to complete this work. So let me give you the numbers so you can understand roughly where we stand and how much money is needed and then what we'd like to propose. Currently, as of the end of August, we've spent $1.4 million out of the capital of the library to move the legacy building. Basically, up front, we had to do all the engineering and planning with Centerbrook Construction. And then we had to hire a mover, Wolf Construction, to physically elevate the building, put steel under it, roll it up the hill to its new location. We forecast that the total cost of getting it in its new location, stable and on, a slab, if you will, and watertight is roughly $2 million, a little over $2 million. So we still have roughly $750,000 or more of expenses forthcoming over the next 3 to 5 months, of which we have no resources to pay. So what was proposed, and we've had a discussion on this, is to create a separate loan document, which the town's attorney and the library's attorney negotiated, that would effectively mirror what we did in the original document with the construction loan to the library building, which was $10 million. At this point, we've only used $4 million of that $10 million capacity. And we don't anticipate using much more because our fundraising has effectively been on target. And we would anticipate also wrapping up the fundraising for the green portion of the new building by year end. So with that in mind, we had a discussion about reducing the capacity of the original loan from 10 million down to 6 million, and then transferring 2 million of that capacity to be borrowed to finish out the legacy building, or at least to finish it out to make it stable and waterproof and the foundation in place in this new location. So that's what we're here to discuss this morning. Right now, we're in what we call phase 1 of this legacy building, where we're doing the concrete infill. The building is now up in its new location. We're going to pour a slab on grade. We're going to finish out the foundation work. There's about $250,000 more of site work that has to be done. There's about $50,000 of concrete that has to be done. And we expect all this to be completed by the end of this year, December 31st, in sync with the completion of the green and the remainder of the total library project. So what does this not include? If we look at the legacy building, what it does not include is any funding for cosmetic work, windows, the back wall, or the inside fit out of the building, which at this point is yet to be determined because we haven't figured out a purpose for the legacy building. So that's where we stand, but we're coming before the town to ask for essentially a transfer of $2 million of capacity from the original loan that's already been approved and in place.
Yeah. So would the completion of the building in terms of the windows and the treatments and everything else, are you asking for the 2 because you would expect to use that to finalize the building? In addition to putting the concrete slab in and
So
stuff?
we don't have a final estimate on the total completion because you can't come up with that until you figure out the purpose of the building and what the fit out is going to be. But we estimate the total cost would be roughly 3 million, start to finish. We've already spent $1.6 million, excuse me,
yeah.
$1.4 million.
Yep.
So you've got $1.6 million left to go.
But you need another 750, I think you said.
We need another 750
Immediately.
to get the building secure and in place in its current location, and to reimburse or pay the expenses associated with Turner Construction
Right.
and Wolf Construction, which
Then you're going to need another 758, whatever, to.
that's an estimate, because again, depending on what we decided to do with that building and its final purpose, it could be more or less. Right? I mean, because at this point, we have stubbed out everything for, electrical, water, et cetera. But, in the end, if you're going to build multiple rooms, if you're going to fit it out with.
I thought you guys had a plan, it was going to be maybe 3 rooms or something, 1 large room and maybe 2.
There was no formal
There is a
conceptual plan. Yeah.
for 2 rooms, which
Yeah.
it's only 1,200 square feet.
Right.
So 2 rooms and 2 bathrooms, because 2 rooms requires 2 bathrooms by code, ADA bathrooms. So that's that's the conceptual drawing, but that all has to be bid out. There's work to do to figure out what, what is the real purpose. If you'll recall, we were asked to come up with that drawing during that planning process. While we said, well, we really can't predict what the use is going to be. We haven't even moved into our new building yet. So this is our best guess of what it can be. But we've been in the new building only 7 months. So I think future library may discover that 2-room plan may or may not be what it really needs.
Yeah, and I think there's one key differentiation. The 2 million we're asking for in terms of a loan would basically cover our requirements under the GMP contract, the guaranteed maximum price contract that we have with Turner Construction and all the subs. It doesn't include any of the further additional work, which we would anticipate fundraising for once we figure out the purpose.
Maybe I'll just start with that. So the anticipation of the fundraising for the legacy building is going to cover some of the renovation. Is that what you're saying? Or for the entire amount? I think I understand from reading this, it's for the entire 2 million is what you pledged to. When those pledges come in, that's going to be what's funding this. Is that correct? Or
So let's not talk about pledges that don't exist yet.
Right.
Okay.
Hasn't started.
I know I'm asking, is that the plan for repayment of this $2 million loan?
Yeah, yes. I mean, eventually we will start a new campaign related to that once we figure out the purpose of the building.
Okay.
And we do have one donor so far who has committed $250,000 over the 5-year term. So that's a huge start. And we're very thankful for that. But the rest of it doesn't exist. And the other thing is we completely separated the fundraising efforts deliberately between the main building and the legacy building due to the nature of the process. And that was part of the MOU and part of the original construction loan related to the $10 million grant. So the two weren't to be intermingled. Different donors, different purposes, whatever, at the time.
So just on, so if I just go through on the amendment to the construction loan, I think Doug Lamonte's on as well. So the first one, to your point, then Bob, the total loan for this first amendment then is going from 10 million to 6. And if I understand that extra 2 is really, you're thinking of it being part of the separate legacy loan. Is that correct? So if I added up the 2 in terms of, how do I look at this? Is
Okay,
that total
now you should
exposure
look at it
6 or 8?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, effectively, we're willing to reduce the amount that we're going to borrow on the main building
Right.
from 10 to 6. So we borrowed 4, so we still have 2 million more of capacity.
Okay, that's my question.
And that
Okay.
is really a safety measure. We don't anticipate needing to draw down on it.
Mhm.
Certainly, but we could just based on the timing of pledges. So in the current loan that we have, the construction loan, it is collateralized, if you will, a bit, we'll say by pledges receivable, right?
Yep.
In the new loan, or the First Amendment, or the loan related to the legacy building, we'll collateralize that with our endowment, because that's the only asset we have at this point in the library that could be used in case of
Good.
no fundraising
Yep.
to pay back the town.
Okay, I understood.
Yeah.
So just on this First Amendment to the, I call it the April 4th agreement. It does say here, this reduction will reduce the amount currently available to be advanced from 6 million to 2 million. And so, but that is for, as you say, the original credit. So that's going to be 6 plus 2. So that's 8. And nothing is going to be asked for, as far as we know now, the lawn, the green.
No, the
That's-
lawn is part of the total
That's
building
part of the-
project. That and
Oh,
we're
that's part of the
fundraising.
original-
Yeah, that's phase two
That's the
of
original
the,
40
correct.
is the lawn is in there. Okay,
Exactly.
Okay, so, okay, got it.
And both of these projects, again, should wrap up by year end.
Yeah. And there's a date in here, and I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong, there's the date I see, I think it's on the loan agreement for the legacy building, actually has a date of December 31st, 2024, completion deadline. What do you expect to be done by that completion deadline?
We expect to be done by December 31st, 2023, is Bob.
This is on the legacy building project, the credit agreement.
Yes, well, that'll be a function of fundraising.
So right now, when we talk about completion, we talk about having the building secure in its current location,
Right,
all the
by
work
this year,
by this year.
right,
Correct. Now,
the other
anything
one-
that goes on in the future,
yep.
it's yet to be determined when that would be completed, because that's going to be a function of the
agreement
fundraising.
Does say December 31st, 2024. God bless you.
Uh,
Is that copacetic with you? or-
That is, but it's a possibility, but maybe, unlikely, depends on how quickly that fundraising effort goes and when it's determined what the purpose of the building is going to be. So I don't know if
That's what
that
the
was
agreement
added
says.
in by
Hey,
Doug.
No, hey Doug,
Yeah.
remind us what, the completion date of 24. I thought it really contemplates that you're gonna have the building situated on a new foundation, secured.
And
will
renovated, it says.
Utilities begin or,
No,
That'll come in the phase.
it's phase two.
so there's really two phases. I mean,
Yeah.
having the building sit there waiting for a purpose and
Right.
a further plan to
Yeah, I
re-
just, I
renovate
got
for a
it. I'm
purpose.
just
Yeah.
wondering if
I'll
that's,
say it's very, I think that's a very ambitious date, given it needs first to figure out what it's for, then a fundraising plan. It needs to be bid out with a contractor, a general contractor, a plan made. There's a lot that has to be involved for that phase two. So it would seem ambitious
Right.
to have 15 months from now be the finish date on that.
okay, I'm just saying what the
Yeah.
contract says.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I know you guys didn't want this building. It was kind of foisted on you as part of the political process, but in terms of the purpose, I mean, time's a wasting. We got to figure out what to do with it. I mean, if you got a committee, subcommittee that's looking into this, you talking to not-for-profits, I mean, is the library going to use it? Is it going to lease it out? I mean, it seems to me this is important. These decisions have got to be made.
We're still fundraising for the main project.
Right.
We're wrapping that up. There's been a clear feeling amongst everyone that it becomes very confusing if you start running two campaigns against yourself.
Right.
The messaging is very muddled. It's very challenging to do. As for its purpose, obviously, people have been trying to think about that for 2 years. What will its purpose be? Clearly, first, we had to get into the new building and understand how the use of that building was going to work out. Would it work out the way it was expected? And then from there, determine, well, what could the needs be? Certainly, I can say there are lots of ideas being generated. But this is going to need a lot of community input. So if the community is going to be asked to support it, the community will need to buy into a vision for what it's for. So that's a whole new campaign that has to be run. So we have to be clear about what are the options. So that.
At least when will that campaign start? I mean, the
I would
new
imagine-
library is up and running.
Yeah.
People have given a lot of money. People love it. It's great. It's here to stay. But this is, we got to get going on this other thing because
Probably.
right now it doesn't look very nice where it is in the
So
condition that it's in.
Next year,
Okay.
you'll start to see some activity.
Okay.
On that. I can't imagine just, there's not that many people to do all the work. It's a lot of work, right? Coming up with all the images, but before that can be done, you have to know what it's for, and it has to be something that makes sense. To just shoehorn something in to get it done would not be right. Nor would, at the moment, we have not seen great enthusiasm for people, we haven't had people jumping up to give us money for this yet. So we have to get that right to make sure. So your point is well taken, but I think we have to be very sensible about this and not rush it if we're going to get people to enthusiastically support it. which we will need.
There's one other thing as
Go
it
ahead.
relates to your comments, but it doesn't look great. At this point in time, the green project is still underway, and there's going to be a lot of landscaping around it. We're going to be buffering on the backside against the gas station. So when it is finished here at year end, and plus with the growth of all the plantings and the terraces, it's going to look totally different. Okay. Now the building again won't have a purpose at this point in time, but at least, I mean, it will be, we believe, quite presentable in the overall design of what you're going to see with respect to the green, the new library, and the building itself.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
One last question. The 2 mil is going to be collateralized by the endowment. What's the library's endowment these days?
Library's endowment is roughly 1.6 million. And, you know, again, at this point in time, we wouldn't anticipate drawing down on all 2 million, but we have no other assets. At this point in time, we have exhausted our capital. So as I already mentioned to you, we spent $1.4 million of our own money and capital to get that building to where it is today.
I think we should be doubly clear here. That has not come from the fundraising.
Yeah,
or the capital
right.
campaign.
Yeah, right.
That was our savings.
So just a couple others, if you'd be so kind. So the legacy building project that's referred to here, the whole thing is included moving, repositioning, and renovating the legacy building. So just one, and that whole expectation, that whole thing looks like in the contract, a completion deadline for December 31st, 2024.
I certainly think we're going to have to readdress
Okay, so you'll just
the deadline date,
highlighting that.
because
Yeah,
we can't put a fixed date on
yeah, okay. And
completion.
okay, and the endowment size currently versus the 2 million, and I guess I'm hearing also could possibly go up to 3 million in total if you're going to include the renovation portion, the windows and so forth. The cement portion, the foundation, is that going to be on a slab? Where does the heating and air conditioning go if it's on a slab?
Well, it's a very small building, so we're looking at something like
Like a split or something?
Yeah, split
Okay.
system. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And even the back of the building, is that part of the renovation?
Yes.
the second phase two.
It's
Phase two,
phase two.
yeah.
What's there now?
It's the original wall. It's a hodgepodge
Yeah,
of stone.
concrete
brick.
block and
It's kind of,
yeah, yeah.
it's sealed
It's
though.
a bunch
It's,
of different things.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Is there a reason why the legacy building and the Gulf Station are not parallel? In terms of, if you go up and you look, which I did.
No,
you know,
I
they're like
understand exactly what
this.
you're saying. And, you know, the
I just-
decision to where to place that building was an engineering and an architecture decision by Centerbrook based on a lot of different factors, including drainage, et cetera. So, and where they located it, time after time, they said was, you know, the optimal location, given the circumstances of where we could fit it, you know, on the property. So I don't know if any consideration was given to matching.
I mean, the reason I
cupola
ask is because
on
they're very similar in size. They're
Right.
similar in look. And yet they're not, one goes here, and the other goes
But
here.
I think the
It's just,
relationship to the main library building was the primary
Yeah,
driver,
right,
not the
right.
relationship to the gas station.
and
And I think the greenery that's going to come between those
Right.
two is really going to soften
That-
that.
yeah,
impression.
there's not much room. How much?
there's
Uh,
the setbacks are,
About 15 feet
Yeah,
total
15,
between the
yeah.
two buildings.
Right.
so there'll be plantings along the backside of it. In fact, we would hope that you wouldn't even see the gas station
Right.
at the end of this, and maybe not the cupola either. So part of what you're discussing in terms of the angle and the height of that will not be visible for most of people coming down Main Street or on Cherry Street eventually as growth. The other thing, just to be very, very clear on, is that when we talk about a $2 million construction loan related to legacy, we have already spent 1.4. So really the needs at this point, if we were to completely outfit it, we're suspecting around 1.6. So that the loan will cover that.
Yeah.
If necessary. And, you know, hopefully by that time we have a fundraising effort underway. I think you can all understand, as Lisa said, that, you know, these fundraising efforts have to be done in a serial fashion, not coincident with each other because it is a mixed messaging and a confusing issue if people don't know where they're giving their money to a particular effort.
What's the reference to new premises in the contract?
Could you read the whole sentence?
New premises means a parcel of land, if any, acquired by the date of this loan agreement for the purpose of facilitating the legacy building project.
I-
All representations, warranties, and covenants referring to new premises shall be effective only after the date, if applicable, on which the library acquires title to the new premises.
No, I can address that.
Yep.
You know, we drafted this in contemplation of an agreement with the Gulf Station. It's no secret. We talked to the Gulf Station for 5-6 months. And as recently as last Monday, the attorney for the owner of the Gulf Station is asking whether we want to proceed with the deal. We had a private philanthropist who was committing $5 million basically toward making a performing arts center there. So that was something we hoped could get done. Obviously, in this environment, can't get done. But that's why that language is there.
Is it still applicable? Is it appropriate to be in this?
At this point in time, I would say no. I mean, it's sort of irrelevant. I mean, but it could, I don't think it hurts anything either. So I think we can leave that up to Doug and our attorney to figure out whether they want to reword that or
I don't
remove
think it's
it.
appropriate in this document.
Well, again, we're passing this on to the Board of Finance and the Town Council. I think the Board of Finance is going to have a lot more to do. We are still discussing the terms of the note, et cetera, as you know from my email.
Yeah, we just got this yesterday, so I apologize.
yeah. So I think
But
the Board of Finance will finalize, the terms of the agreement and the note. So that'll be
that's
next.
our job too.
We got a lot of stuff yesterday,
That's our
last night, expected
Well,
to go through.
Well, it'll also go back to us to.
Substantive documentation, we get it, less than 24 hours before this meeting, actually more like 12 hours. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so can we talk about the finances? I have finance background too, so I know the Board of Finance history, but I just had the question here. So this document, which I just actually was on the line of credit convertible promissory note. So in one area, the determination of the interest rates is that it's a tax exempt, I guess, backed by a tax exempt municipal bond issued. And then under section 8, it says it's taxable. Which is it?
I think that question should be addressed to the CFO of the town.
Okay,
And you want to join us?
but you're signing this too, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
I mean, it was always our understanding that this would be sort of incorporated within the existing loan, which we're already borrowing at and has a set interest rate of 25 basis points above the town's costs. So that was our understanding, but we obviously have to deal with what the law says.
Yeah, this part is very confusing because under the original loan agreement, construction, we were allowed to essentially lend tax exempt rates. And if you could explain the difference as to why this is different.
So the 4 million that the first agreement
Right.
was the town directly loaning the money out. So it's an asset to us loaning out. So that's why we could charge whatever rate, and the agreed upon rate was a muni rate at that point plus a quarter basis points.
Right.
In going from a loan on the books to bonding,
Well, but I mean, we still have that choice.
No, we still have the
We
choice.
can make that choice and the Board of Finance can make that choice.
yes, you can make that choice to continue down that path.
Right.
But if we convert it to a bond, it becomes a taxable bond at that point. The library being at 503.
Even the original 4 million
Not the original
or
4
this
million, the
coming?
second for the
Okay.
legacy. the
Okay,
1913.
gotcha.
So the
Yep.
2 million for the legacy,
Yeah,
if that's bonded, that becomes a taxable bond. Because of the nature of it's not, it's going through
Okay.
us, but it's not our bond because we're getting a repayment on it.
okay.
So it becomes.
So if it's a
taxable.
taxable bond, therefore, then I would imagine that you want to charge them a taxable rate.
Well, there's two, and I'll look to see what part, there's two pieces in this convertible
Yeah.
promissory note.
Yeah,
There's the original that there's an immediate need for the cash now.
correct.
So there's an immediate, so we have to do the cash loan from the town. So
Right.
the general fund would give that loan out. From the point of that loan to when we turn it to a bond,
Right.
it would be at the muni rate. So
Taxable.
tax exempt muni rate.
Okay,
It would be at that rate if the town chooses to do that, because again, it's a choice. Once we convert it, that loan that's outstanding, once we go out to bonding, we convert it to a bond, then that loan becomes a tax exempt bond
okay,
over 5 years.
okay. So
Tax
that
exempt or
needs to
you-
be
Oh, sorry,
changed.
a taxable,
Oh,
I'm sorry, I confused there, a
okay.
taxable. So there's two pieces in this. There's the loan I call it the cash loan. That's at a
Mhm.
muni tax exempt rate. And
Mhm.
then there's the bond, which we would convert it. And the reason we go to bonding is if you decide to say, we're putting out a lot of cash versus
right,
bonding.
right.
So that would be the choice or the decision. And then it goes to a taxable
What's the
bond.
difference between in today's rates, a tax exempt
I knew
versus
you were gonna ask
taxable
that.
bond?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the answer yesterday,
that's
so
all
I'll get that and
I mean,
email it out to both
Is
of
it
you.
50 basis
is-
points?
It is tight right now. I would say
Yeah.
up until like 2 weeks ago, there wasn't a lot of a difference. I just don't have the exact, it
Okay.
had been in the threes.
There's one thing that might impact this, and that's our schedule of repayment on the pledges receivable. And we believe we're going to be in position to repay 2 million of the existing 4 million at year end. So we're going to knock that number down so that the total borrowing from town will probably stay at the same level it is right now.
Do you ever get pledges for your whole campaign, the whole thing? That's not specific to, this pledge is for the lawn, and this pledge is for specific, just a general, here's some capital, here's a donation, so forth. And,
Yes.
and you do get that. Okay. So I'm wondering whether or not,
But it does not include the legacy.
okay, so that's my question. So,
It does not
so,
include that it's the same project.
so if I say I'm going to give you a capital pledge, use it in your best interest. A lot of people, when you make a pledge on any not-for-profits, as use it for how you see fit.
Right.
How do you make that judgment of how?
Until we finish paying for the main project, it goes to the main project.
Okay,
So there's a difference on our books. So we keep books related to the capital campaign exclusively, right? Separate. We also have the library's P&L
Operating.
and operating. So if we just get a general contribution to the library, that comes into our operating cash
that I get.
and it goes into our capital eventually, and then we can make a decision as to how we
use
want
that
to use it.
capital.
Yes, exactly.
Which they've used.
Budget. If you
Correct.
want to use it for the legacy
Right.
loan or
1.4, right? That's what.
Right. That's exactly how we paid 1.4 million from our
That
capital.
incorporates general gifts of whatever money.
Well,
Use
let's
it.
That savings account was being built for years.
Yes.
let's be clear, though. You're talking about, you use your major maintenance reserve, which was an allocated amount from savings over time for major maintenance. That's sort of gone away because it's a brand new building and
Right.
shouldn't have. You also used the money from the IRS, from the federal government.
Yep.
It was kind of a gift.
Yeah.
So, and then you've gone into the endowment by borrowing from the endowment. So the
Correct.
1.4 you've expended
Right.
has come from those three sources mainly.
Correct.
It hasn't come from the operating budget.
No.
So.
Well, I'm totally fine with the 2 million, and that's fine. I'm more concerned about the repayment back. So, right, because this is all about the same amount of dollars. We're just reducing
Right.
one and expending
Right.
another, all the same. But I'm just more concerned about how does the town get paid back
Right.
its loans? And it's, if I'm sitting on a banking committee here, I'd be like, well, where are we getting this money? How can we be assured that we're going to get back? And I get it. It's on the endowment in the case of default. And it's also with future pledges for whatever this project may be. And it's likely not to, when does principal start getting paid on this?
The first loan is.
No, the
February-
second, the
second
legacy.
is,
February.
25.
Yes. February of 24 on the main building and 25 on the
On the second piece.
second
yeah, in the
piece.
legacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. But the completion date may or may not be December 31st, 2024.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's Unlikely to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean,
To answer your question, I mean, we've raised $40 million for what clearly this
for a
community
great project.
really
Right.
wanted.
Yeah.
I know you and a few others really thought that we'd be able to raise money on this next project and we're confident we will. The fact that we've raised 40 million just makes me
Yeah,
think that there's every chance that we can raise another 1.5 million to finish the
I
legacy
hope
project.
so. That'd be great, but I'm thinking that the whole project would be great. And as you get pledges for your best use, I would just want to make sure that we have some sort of confidence as a creditor, that we are getting paid back on this particular loan too. The carve out piece of it in terms of the repayment is a little bit, more concerning than, providing you the loan. I totally get it. I would love to have seen this as all one loan agreement. So the flow comes back, principal and interest comes back in its entirety. But I understand for reasons why you're separating the two. It's just, I'd like to.
Document that created the.
I beg pardon?
The MOU, yeah.
No, I understand. That's what I told you. I understood why, but I'm just saying the repayment, which is something different than the MOU. The loan I get, it's just the repayment. Just would feel more comfortable, just in terms of it, but I'm gonna trust that you've got that all figured out. I just don't have the same level of confidence that, the repayment will be as great as it's going to be on the original new library building. I just don't feel it. So just raising that as a flag. So, and especially because we don't know what the project is going to be.
Right. I think worst case scenario, again, we tap into the endowment. We don't want to do that,
That
but
is
the
the worst
endowment
case, yeah.
amount is equal to the additional borrowing and additional costs we're gonna have to expend
I
to
understand.
complete the project on our,
I'd like to be
based on
paid
estimates.
for what you already
Right,
spent on
right.
it too,
So,
right?
We would prefer not to
yeah,
do that.
right.
And this just gives us a window of opportunity to actually figure out what the purpose of the building is and then fundraise for it.
Right. So I understand this is what you want to pass on to the Board of Finance in terms of the municipal and the tax exempt and the taxable. You'll figure that out.
Yep.
I also, what was one last thing I wanted to ask? Oh, the actual draw, would it be, are you expecting to draw up to the full 2 million soon or just what was the first?
No,
one?
I think the draw would be probably 1 million between now and year end, or maybe even as soon as next month. And then the remainder would be yet to be determined.
And how do you feel about that in terms of our cash situation? So we're not getting a bulk of our cash until January for taxes.
Right, we changed up our investments, so we were able to put out more than we had planned ever. So I have scheduled money to come back. That
Okay.
could be something that I schedule in that schedule to pull back on it. It'll be 5 million out. I'll probably change it so that we're gonna have it in a segregated fund all by itself, so it's not addressing anything in the general fund.
Okay.
Talking with our auditors to make sure that's an ability to do that. So we'd segregate it out. It would be a cash flow issue between the general fund and the other on this new fund.
Okay.
But I think from a cash flow, we can do it. I just pull back from investments because
Okay.
we keep our cash balances pretty low now.
Is the legacy building project at a halt right now? Or is it going, is it?
No, it's
Okay.
fully underway.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw somebody there yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I mean, I know the plantings and all that is clearly going under,
They're working on, they're repurposing the stone
but
to do the foundation right now, to all around the outside of the foundation, so that the below the floor line will look as it looked in its previous location.
look, I am, as I have been, I think from day one, supportive of you folks and this project. I think it's, I've said it before, a home run for this town. I'm a little disappointed in the process by which this came to us because I don't like reading legal documents as a lawyer, late at night before a meeting the next morning. And I would have preferred to have, it's not just this, other things that are on the agenda today as well. But
No, we
I'm
had
very
the option of
supportive.
deferring this for 2 weeks, but they wanted to get the process going
I understand.
because we're limited.
Yes, I
Board
understand
of Finance
that.
would like to
Yep.
address this.
And, yeah, well, we're the.
When
Board of
is the
Selectmen,
next,
so
when
we-
is the Board of Finance meet?
Next Tuesday, the 10th, and then.
Okay, so you got
If you
another
want to
week.
defer for 2 weeks, we can, but I think
You just have to clean up some things on the date,
Right.
the completion date, sounds like to me. Got to straighten out the taxable versus tax exempt.
Yeah. and
Sounds
which-
like.
It's which way are we going to go? Are we
Yeah.
going to go cash? Are we going to go bond?
Yeah, I think there needs to be some work on the documentation. That's what I say. But subject to that, I'm certainly supportive today of this.
I want to commend Bob and Lisa for your incredible work getting this project to where it is as of now. Thank you. It's a remarkable building, the new building, and the green will be beautiful. And so I think we ought to move, I think we ought to move this on to the Board of Finance, and I therefore move we approve these draft agreements subject to further amendment with the Board of Finance, and they'll probably come back, they could come back to us for final approval.
Does it go to the town council or
Yes.
just?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's several steps.
I think so.
see.
I'm not positive
Is
about
it?
that. Where's she in? Oh, yeah.
It should, because of the finance side, and certainly if we're.
Yeah, it's an
going-
appropriation.
Yeah,
We
okay.
have to do it as
Appropriation
appropriation,
and
but it won't.
a bond
for
authorization.
appropriation, We won't be able to do town council next week because I need a week in between.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it would, the authorization for the bonding side, if it goes that direction, wouldn't happen till November. But right now, we won't be bonding till March, so it is a cash upfront, anyway.
But okay, so it's not until November if you go through Board of Finance, Town
We can go
Council.
through the Board of Finance at the Board of Finance meeting. They can approve it at that one if they're,
Right.
if we're doing a bonding authorization on top,
Right.
when we choose. Then we have to wait till the next town council because I need a week in between meetings because we have to
November.
authorize, we have to notice it.
That's why we.
So
want to
that's
get
for the
it to
bonding.
Board of
Yeah.
Finance, so they.
But
Okay.
we have to float cash anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
between now and then.
I second your motion, Karen.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next item is the what's the next item? Cellular phone service drive test vendor. You want to come up to the table, Rich and Sven? Russ, did Russ leave? You want to join us?
Decided to dress the same today.
Sorry to keep
I'm
you guys,
matching you guys.
sorry to keep you guys waiting. So, why don't you briefly describe your commission meeting last week and
Okay, well, let me describe what we're trying to accomplish here is the drive-by test has been a priority and a priority because of the leaves. Right. And so that was why we did special meetings and canceled the utility commission meeting, et cetera. And the key thing to it is the data and getting the data we need because we really feel the drive-by study or an equivalent study we need in order to get going on setting up the technology strategy for the town that we believe should be implemented in the town going forward. And we need some experts to get in on that. And we need some data. What's the baseline? How many people are actually covered? And how granular should it be? In my opinion, we ought to have house by house. Who's covered and who's not? What are they covered for and what are they covered not? Right? Are they 5G? Are they 4G? Are they LTE, et cetera? And so we have on the utility commission an expert, Karim Kiar, that this has been part of his job for a long time. And he has been the one assessing effectively the effectiveness of the data we get. So where we are in the review, if you want to put it that way, is when we had the meeting last week, by that time, we had taken actually a fairly careful look at a number of companies, not just the two that are on the agenda here. And a number of them just didn't qualify. They're not doing the job anymore. And fact of the matter is not that many people do this anymore. That really is a factor. And the two that we have left, we concluded in going through their history and what they do and how they do it or how they say they will do it, that either of them would be fine. And the prices, quite frankly, between them that came in on the initial proposals were very similar. So there's not a whole lot of difference between those two. And the one thing that is an issue is the detailed statement of works. The proposals that came in my mind, were very high level. And by that, I mean, what are we trying to understand here? We're trying to understand house by house, who gets coverage and who doesn't and what they get coverage on. And the way the proposals are couched is we're buying a drive-by study. Well, a drive-by study it all it has is data points, right? And it can have 1,000, it can have 10,000, it can have 100,000. And that depends on the methodology used in the drive-by study, right? And that's not really specified in either of the proposals. We're going to do a drive-by study, right? We're going to do a drive-by study like Centerline was done. And so a big piece of what has been holding us up is trying to have a conversation with the vendors that actually we can write down, here's what you're doing for us. You're going to give us 15,000 points along 125 miles of road. And it's going to be between these hours so that we understand what we have. Now, why do we want to understand what we got? Because we want the data and we want to be able to work with the data. Karim has plenty of knowledge on the data and how to work with the data. And so, but he is a volunteer, right? So asking him to do a whole lot of programming, et cetera, is probably not the appropriate thing to do. But what he can do for us is assure that if we get these elements of data and we get these elements of data, enough of them, that we will have the basis on which to understand what coverage we will have and how different coverages can be laid in and models you can put on top of it. And where we sit today, and when we had the meeting, and the motion we made was, we said, there's been issues around, are these problem companies? We don't believe these are problem companies. And we believe relative to the procurement process, Kevin has followed the procurement process. Right. This is within his authority to do. Quite frankly, single source is fine at this level of spending. And he's assessed, and we have assessed the skills available within these companies. And will they be able to do the job? They will. They'll be able to do the job. What we haven't done is Karim wrote down what he's calling an RFP. Kevin sent that out to the vendors. The vendors responded to him as of last Friday. We tripped up a little bit on getting that communications back to us and back to Karim and myself and Sven. So we haven't really assessed that. Okay. I can tell you where the issues are that we want to make sure is settled. One is what is the methodology they're going to use? How many data points are we going to get? You know, and when you think about it, 125 miles of road driven at 30 miles an hour, if you take a measurement every second, is 15,000 points along 125 miles of road. Now, what does that actually tell you? It tells you 1 point for 1 second at one spot, right? Those spots will be 46 feet apart, one to the next, which is pretty good. That's pretty close. But in between that, if you were to cut that in half and go to 90 feet, is that enough? Or if you put 2 seconds, go to 4 seconds, and you go to 180 feet, what is the right spot to be here? And I just think we ought to be clear on what we're getting and what we'll be able to do with that. A second thing is a key element of data that is not listed, at least in the PureCom response, is altitude. What level is this at? It's a two-dimensional map, which we're all used to looking at. But there's a very big piece of information, which is, are they not receiving because of their elevation, or are they not receiving because they're not in the right spot? You know, and so we want the ability to put a three-dimensional map together.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. That's the ability we want to have. We're not asking them to do that, but if we get that data, that would be appropriate. In the responses they put back to us on the Word document is, look, we can do all this stuff. And with respect to what we asked for, 80% of the stuff is covered. They say, yeah, okay, fine, not a problem. Altitude for the points, not covered. Okay, the second thing that's not covered is the specificity on the drive. How many points are we getting? The third thing that is not covered is what's called sector growth or sector strength or whatever, but it talks to how much capacity is available at that point. Because you may not be, you know, look like the capacity is there, but it's all used up, right? Kevin, your point on a lot of why people think this stuff doesn't work. And their comment is, we can do that, just cost more money. That's okay. Well, at this point, I don't think that we're ready to sign a contract today until we get a reasonable list of this is what we've agreed to.
Mhm.
And now, Sven, your comment?
Well, my comment, to Rich this morning was, as of, 10:30 last night, I sort of felt that, we didn't have, enough information. It's gonna take us a while to, set up a real RFP the way we want it, for execution. And I sort of feel that, the leaves are falling now. And we may have missed our window for this fall. And the leaves will be back in June. And we can pick it up again. Now, one of the interesting things in my conversations with Rich is that Rich has found a very interesting company called Ookla. And they have information on our coverage by carrier, by frequency, at altitude. But it's canned data, and there's no provision for modeling the cell tower on Ponus. But it does show what we've got, in town right now. I don't know what else you want to say about the company, but we've been looking at the information, and it is 3D, and we can find out everything that's happening in Fairfield County for around 15,000, and everything that's currently existing in New Canaan for maybe a third of that.
Right.
Rough numbers. Don't hold me to them, but it'd be nice to know what's happening all over Fairfield County, so that we can compare ourselves to surrounding towns.
Great idea.
As far as putting together a path forward. The other thing it gives us right away is what's happening now. And as far as putting together a wireless strategy for emergency services, it would be a good look right now as to where we are. So, I always say the ratio of something to nothing is infinite. So a little bit of data, to work on this winter. would
Spoken like a
help
brown
us
man.
through. You got it, buddy. You want to tell them about it?
Yeah, just let me tell you a little bit about Ookla. They use a different methodology than a drive-by study. A drive-by study is receiving power and saying, this is how much power lands here. Ookla is one of the big speed test people on cell phones or on your computers. And so where they get their data is not how much power lands here, but where did they get these speed test requests? And so every time somebody does a speed test and has Ookla, they record that and they put it where on the map where it is, what address it's coming from. And so they have a worldwide database driven by all of the Ookla speed tests around the entire world.
Can you just describe that? Would I be asking for Ookla speed test? How would you get my data?
Well, Ookla has your data. Okay,
Okay.
if you got an Apple phone,
The app,
if
I use Open Signal. You have to download the app so then they can measure.
no, for this, you have to do a speed
So you
test.
don't have my data, in other words, right?
And if you've
Okay.
done a speed test, they've got your data. If you haven't done a speed test, they don't,
I see.
right?
Okay.
And also within
So one question is how many people in New Canaan
Right.
have downloaded
Well-
Ookla? Because if,
Right.
500 people, 1,000 people,
Right.
Well, that's a good
Yeah,
question. And we're not ready to say this is exactly what we want to do, but we think with the leaves coming down, this is a good alternative to go look at. And they're glad to set up demonstrations for
Yeah.
us. We just started investigating
Yeah.
this
No, I know you
yesterday.
just got this. Yeah.
But what's interesting about it is it's a different way to look at it because it's not where the power lands, it's where the calls came from.
Mhm.
Right. And when you look, they did a study for Vermont as a random example. So for Vermont to put together a strategy to
Mhm.
get coverage. And so the Vermont folks bought their data and then went out and there were roads which were not covered. And so they said, let's go cover those with a drive test to cut down
I
on
see.
the amount of
I
drive
see.
tests. So they
I
used
see.
that to focus it.
Gotcha.
And the interesting thing about the data is ongoing and evolving. So what you buy is the last year's worth of data. You want to know what it was last December, they could tell you what it was last December. And it is good for the prior year and the year going forward. And the data elements are quite fulsome. Now, if this doesn't quite give you enough data, they will be glad to lease you the machinery to stick in your car and go do it yourself. And they'll help you do that.
Sorry, is that a drive test?
Yeah,
or-
yeah,
I
you
see,
can do
I
your own
see.
drive test.
They'll give you the equipment to
They'll
do
give
your
you
own
the
driver
equipment.
test. You give it to Tiger and he.
Yeah, they'll
his
lease you,
guys drive
the
around?
equipment.
Okay. Okay.
And so it's a lot of data. It's a lot of data that is through all weather, right? And by the way, it's all hours. It's not just business hours. And at each location that they have a phone, it not only says where it came from, but what towers it went through. So did it go through a 5G antenna or did it go through the tower, over on the golf course, et cetera?
So in the interest of time.
Yeah.
I applaud your desire for patience on the one hand. And secondly, this is why we have a utilities commission, because I'm learning more today than I have. And thank you guys for stepping up to do this. And thanks to all the members of the utilities commission. There's no rush here. We want to get it right. And the one thing I know, I'm very technical, my kids can tell you that technology moves every day, every hour, every minute.
Absolutely.
And so there's no rush. Let's get it right. Thank you for your hard work. And again, I applaud your patience. We need more patience in town.
I just also add, I did watch the meeting and I sat in a softer seat while watching it, but I will say, great. I mean, wow, I feel the same way. What a great commission has been put together. So thank you for all that. Leaves come back, so we can do this maybe in June or whenever it's necessary, but seems like there's a lot more work that you're doing. We're in the contract phase here. So unless you had a contract, whether it's for UCLA or something, bring it back when you have something that you want us to take a look at and approve. But right now, thank you for that update, because I think
We
still
won't
in the
be
update
here
phase.
ourselves,
We'll
but
be here,
but
yeah.
others will.
Maybe
Someone
if
will be
it's in
there.
2 weeks, we're still here, but anyway, but that's good. And but it's important also, I know you have the next utilities commission meeting doesn't meet until the 14th of November.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys need to kind of
I
get,
believe it's on the 20.
you moved it from the 21st to the 14th, but
That was
because-
November. We've got an.
oh, you're going to meet in October.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
We've got an October. It's the November meeting.
So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be shared, obviously,
Right.
with these two potential providers, and then this third one that you're looking at. So it didn't seem like to me the resolution was clear about it's going to be X, and so that seems to, I'd rather have that recommendation from you, because as we pointed out, you guys are the experts, not us. So if you come back with your recommendation, we're happy to hear it.
Okay.
What
Thank
do
you.
think, Russ?
We look forward to seeing the results of an empirical study. I think, it's an active discussion amongst the chiefs about which provider we should be using for cellular modems across police, fire, and EMS. We don't have the data per se, so we look forward to the results of it.
Yeah.
And again, we strongly encourage comprehensive cell coverage across town for people to be able to notify 911, to be able to give us emergencies, and for all the reasons we let out before, that it's important for us to be able to have access to cellular data to do our jobs. So
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, as Amy said in an email to me, no infrastructure, no service. So that's the bottom line.
Right, I agree.
So,
But that's what the committee needs to
Right.
get back to us and recommend. So
Exactly.
I agree.
Patience, patience, patience.
Good morning. We are here to present Tommy Ryan. The last time we were here, we had a candidate who his employer offered him more money and he turned us down, which is happening. So we went to our second candidate, Tommy Ryan. He is currently at Rings End. He does not have his CDL. That's why he did not come out first. But we are going to work with him. Mosey will work with him to make sure that he gets his CDL while employed. What we are finding in today's market is that we are not getting individuals with CDLs. So a lot of towns are looking at, we hire them as laborers, train them, get them certified while they're with us.
And we
So-
pay for that. Do we pay for the training and the
We would.
certification
Yep,
process and
we
stuff like?
would.
Okay.
Yep. So we would bring Tommy in as a laborer, and then once he passes his CDL, he would move to an equipment operator. So.
Sounds great. This is filling which spot? That was.
This would be filling the spot that we spoke about a month ago. So it's in the
Okay.
budget, it's an equipment operator, but
Right.
we're gonna lower it to a laborer.
Okay. Sounds good.
Comments here.
I move we approve the request from the Human Services Director to hire Thomas Ryan as a full-time laborer for the Highway Department. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Thank you.
Appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Paul Kanag is currently an alternate. Alan Swerdlow is currently an alternate, and Christine Larson would fill the alternate spot by Paul Kanag's movement up to a regular member. So
Sorry?
who's on? Who's on? Who, Christina Larson? So I moved the appointment of the three individuals on our tablets, and you have Christina Larson's resume. Second?
Second here.
Can I make a comment? So I just think it's one of the things that, Kevin, you said that we were not going to be putting forward appointments until the next round of the new Board of Selectmen coming in. And this one in particular to me, and I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Ms. Larson, although I did reach out to her, but not an issue with that. But I think her term ends December 1st, 2023. I don't understand what the rush is. So, and that's the beauty of having alternates on bodies such as P&Z and Board of Finance, that when you do have openings, the alternates step up and they fill in. So there was not really a rush, I think, in this particular case. And I want to stick with what you originally pledged, that
I didn't
no
pledge
appointments.
anything. Don't put words in my mouth. So,
Okay, no, I'm just, what you said to us is that no appointments other than the Affordable Housing Committee, which unfortunately seems to be delayed again. But I just feel that this is something that can be handed off to the new Board of Selectmen. But it's up to you. You've got 2 votes, but I'm going to abstain.
Yeah, I'm guided by Dan Radman, my discussions with him, and he said, he would like this to.
I mean, the
take
chairman
place.
asked that we make appointments. So
I
think you before said we
I beg
but
your
I
pardon?
we
respect,
always defer to the wishes of chairman.
I actually
of
did
boards
reach out
commission.
to Dan and Krista and said, and they weren't aware of this actually coming before.
Yes, they were.
Well, I'll just tell you what I heard back from them. So they appreciate it, but again, just trying to follow the process here, and this is an appointment that is basically ends on December 1st, 2023. Makes no sense to me to
Okay.
do this.
Well, I made the motion, was seconded.
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
I'm abstaining, yeah.
I don't know why we have the 2024 meeting schedule on here. Why should
don't
we?
either.
Why should we?
I think all of us agree on that.
Here, because we have to get the budget schedule set, so I need to make sure that these meetings and I'll do it for the finance and town council, we do it every year.
I can approve it, but provisionally, obviously it'll be subject to what, maybe you can share it with the upcoming members of the Board of
Why don't we defer on
Selectmen.
this for 2 weeks and
Why don't we ask for their opinion? I don't have any problem, but I'd rather they know that they can deal with that dates. I get your point, but
overpayments. There's a handful of automobile and a couple of sewer fee reversals, or I don't know. I move you approve the refunds and the tax overpayments on the tablets. Second,
second.
all in favor?
Aye. So I guess Vine Cottage would be next as an agenda item. Unsolicited, I did not go out and look for a buyer for Vine Cottage, but it came to my attention that we have a very credible buyer, potential buyer for Vine Cottage. As many of you know, Vine Cottage was on the market previously. Kevin, I think you had said to me that, we can't sell Vine Cottage because we need it for COVID, which was unusual. I actually went back and looked at the RFP the first time we put it on the market, and it was dated September 2021. I think COVID was going on then. I may be wrong. Nonetheless, what I would suggest is, since we do have a very credible buyer at, I think, a potentially good price for the town, unlike the first time we shopped Vine Cottage and really got no material bids, I think. I won't get into the details, but I think, people can find that out. I would suggest that this Board of Selectmen, which will not be around when a decision is to be made to sell or not sell Vine Cottage, it'll be 3 different individuals sitting here. But I would suggest in the best interest of the town that we move this process forward for now by having Tiger and his folks issue an RFP, as we did in September 2021. And I would expect that that RFP would be very similar to the new RFP, would be similar to the old RFP. It would condition any purchase on maintaining the integrity of the historic nature of the building, i.e. the outside of the building. Vine Cottage today is being used as what I call a PPE dump site. If you go upstairs, there are rooms filled with, surgical masks and gloves and things like that. And Jen Eielson, our wonderful health director, can certainly attest to that fact. It can't be used. It's similar to the issue we have at Irwin. It's not ADA compliant. We have to put in an elevator there. I don't think anybody in their right mind would consider putting at town expense an elevator in Vine Cottage. So my belief is that we should have that RFP issued. We'll see what comes about. Will that bidder stay? I think she will. But we have to follow the process. I believe in process, and the RFP would be just a starting point to that process. To be clear, this potential bidder understands it takes the Board of Selectmen to approve. It takes town council. I don't think it takes the Board of Finance, because we would be disposing of property, not paying for something new to buy. So, but the bidder, and the reason I'm bringing this forward now and not waiting until a new Board of Selectmen is because this bidder has said to me, I would like this process to begin sooner rather than later. Kath, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Just a couple of comments and questions, actually. So I don't know that the Vine Cottage was ever, quote, on the market, right? I think we were inquiring.
We had an RFP out, and we received, I don't know, Tiger, correct me, 3 bids, 4 bids. I mean, one of the bids was for $1.
Anyway,
one of the bids was for $1.
I just want to clarify, it wasn't, quote, on the market. We reached out to inquire through an RFP process.
Absolutely.
Whether there was level of interest. We were not obliged, obviously, to follow.
I think the high bid was from a local developer who was bidding, I think, $750,000 in cash, and perhaps parking spots in town that he controlled.
I guess so. I just want to make sure it's not, quote, I know we haven't put a sign out or anything like that, but I also think it'd be interesting. We do have someone who's come, as you said, to I don't know if there's been official is it to you, Nick, or has it come to the full Board of Selectmen?
Was it the inquiry?
Yeah,
to us, to the whole. Yeah, I believe in the concept of a Board of Selectmen, so that includes all 3 of us.
So, and I think it's enough that says, gee, this could be quite interesting. Again, it's not necessarily putting the Vine Cottage on the market, but if we did revisit putting out an RFP, but I think and Tiger, you're closing your eyes, but is there something, is there of anything that the RFP that was issued, I believe it was 2019 and 2021, would that need a refresher? Like, would we would recommend that we take a look if we have time, say in the next 2 weeks before our next meeting, just to at least review it again?
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, so.
Absolutely. I mean, again,
Okay.
I'm posing the concept of
Yeah,
an
I'm okay
RFP.
with that.
And just for the record, I was looking through my notes. I hold in my hand a Town of New Canaan Building Evaluation and Use Committee, December 5th, 2017, which went through every single building
Mhm.
that this town owns. And it's pretty thick. We own a lot of stuff. Interestingly, the co-chairs were your good friend Penny Young and Amy Murphy Carroll, sitting amongst us today. They went through every building, and I think the executive summary is we have a lot of buildings we need to try and dispose of some buildings. And there's certain buildings we can't really sell. We can't sell Irwin House because it's in a park. And there are other buildings that we can't sell. The town hall, presumably, we're not going to do that. But seriously, I think this makes sense. We're not making a decision to keep it, to sell it. We're just moving the process forward for the next Board of Selectmen who will make that decision.
Yeah, no, I'm supportive of that.
So the motion is to have an RFP issued, subject, Kathleen, to the finalization of the RFP that Tiger and his folks will quite capably do, and have that issued, as soon as possible.
Do you want to have it issued under our leadership or wait until the next Board of Selectmen?
Our leadership. Again, this isn't, I'm not driving this. I'm being responsive to this one particular bidder who just wants to see the process start.
Okay. I'd be supportive of that, but I'd also like to involve the next Board of Selectmen just to comment on it before it goes out.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Well, we have one of them in the audience.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay.
Can I add things to Selectmen's comments? Yeah, okay.
I'm good with that.
Backing up. So we did Vine Cottage Affordable Housing Committee. Maybe just an update for those who have expressed interest. Also, everybody who's interested in seeing Affordable Housing Committee get launched. What's our expectation in getting that done? Time-wise.
Well, from what I understand, we don't have a consensus around nominees, so I'm not sure how we're going to move this forward. And for the same reasons we've been talking about, it's probably better that the new team decide.
Okay, I'm fine with that,
So-
but I think we should obviously communicate that if it's not going to happen with this body, which I really hoped it would.
Unless we get a consensus, and there's too many people making it political. So
Yeah, I'm not sure that door has closed, Kathleen, but I will say this. Everybody that I've met with are terrific. This is the same problem we have with utilities.
I
committee.
know.
We get too many people, too many good people, not enough spots. And that's a bit vexing and unfortunate. And I'm sorry for that. But I hope that door hasn't closed fully until.
I hope we could do it. As I
yeah.
said, I
I
don't
do
want
too.
politics to get in the way of good governance. So
I do too.
let's move forward. Okay. Okay, good. Well, maybe we have 2 more meetings, so maybe there's hope. The other thing we talked about at the last meeting about the Churchill district, we were going to get an update, I believe, about where that stands, I guess what the state approved. And I'm not sure whether Vine Cottage falls into that or not. And so I'd like to hear more about it. And so if we can get that perhaps on our next meeting agenda, that'd be great.
Ms. Shippo voted to recommend it as a federal.
But I just like to understand what's
Yeah.
the impact on our town and
Have you
what
talked
does that mean?
have you talked to anybody involved in the process? I mean, I just talked to one of them, so that's all,
Yeah, I
that's
think
all
the
I know.
community would like to know. So that's why we want to bring it before the Board of
Well,
Selectmen.
it's not a town initiative, so it's, I've
Well, we approved, right? Or you approved.
we authorized funds to support their
so
effort,
It's taxpayer money. So I think that the taxpayers should hear.
Why don't you talk to the people who are involved? Because
I did. I'd like
yeah.
to bring it
Well,
to
then
the
why
board
don't you
of
present it? Why don't you give the update?
I don't even know.
I don't know either.
I
I just, I
said
was-
it was sent to you. So anyway, I'd like to have them come in on the agenda.
Nothing was sent to me.
Okay,
Nothing
Okay.
was sent to me.
okay.
I got
So,
a phone call saying SHPO voted to recommend it to the federal government.
okay, so let's have them present so we know how it's impacting our town. And I think that is all I have. Anything else from you?
Nope. Good. To adjourn at 10:12.
Second here.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Alan.
Alan.
Thanks for